Hello again in Simple Math for You. Our lesson today is inverses of linear functions. أهلا بكم من جديد في Simple Math for You. ودرسنا اليوم هو الدالة العكسية للدوال للخطية الجزء الأول. We are in part 1 and we are going to learn inverses of relations. العلاقات وعكسها. Two relations are inverse relations if and only if one relation contains point of the form AB. إذا في relation علاقة فيها AB, إذا the other relation contains the BA. Switch X and Y coordinates. X صارت Y Y صارت X. Simply this is inverse relation. So the X coordinates are exchanged with the Y coordinates for each ordered pair in the relation. And this is the summary. If in symbols AB is one relation, then the inverse includes the BA. العكس. Let's see here. Find the inverse of each relation. Number one, it is in table, and simply we can just switch or interchange X and Y. So X becomes Y and Y becomes X. In seconds, we can write them back in this way. X تصير Y وال Y تصير X. The second question, we want to switch as well to find the inverse relation. Don't change the sign. لا تغير الإشارات نفسها كما هي. يعني العكس بالضبط. 14 and 1 and this one 20 and 3. Done. Now let's use the concept of inverse to graph the inverse of this function. This is graph. So for the graph, it's advised to take, يعني ينصح recommended to pick 2 points, good points. So we will take this point, which is 0 and minus 4, and this is another point, which is 10 and 0, because this is evenly distributed, 2, 4, 6, 8. Now, what if someone wants this point? Okay, it's on the line, but it's difficult for you to know the X and the Y. Don't choose such points. ما تختار هيك points. اختار على corner, used on the corner of the square. على طرف المربع. Angle of the square. The vertices. But at the same time, it should be on the line. يعني for example, this is as well good point. We will now use the points that we have used, this and that. Now, if you want the inverse of those points, then this will become 0, 10. And 0, 10 is on the y-axis. So as a first conclusion, this was called, 10, 0 was called x-intercept. Now x-intercept becomes y-intercept in the inverse. اللي كانت مقطع x حتصير مقطع y في الانverse. Similarly here, this was y-intercept, مقطع y حتتحول إلى مقطع x-intercept here. And we will match the new points over there. And this will be our inverse. Okay, let's try to check out the relation between the slope of the function and the slope of the inverse. If you want to find the slope, as we know, we need 2 points. And you have many approaches. One of the approaches is to apply slope formula. So for the blue line, let's say the blue line, the original one, if you want to use the slope formula, then it is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And it is 0 minus minus 4 over 10 minus 0, which is 4 over 10. If you simplify it, it will be 2 over 5. Or you can use rise over run. You are moving from this point to that point. So the rise is 2, the run is 5 units, or you can say 4 over 10, the same as 2 over 5. So rise over run, it's the same as 2 over 5. Let's now find the inverse, the slope of the inverse function. ميل العكسية، الدالة العكسية هاي. إذا احنا رسمنا الانverse اللي هو العكسي الأحمر. And we will try to find the slope. خلينا نجرب نطلع الميل. Again, you will find using rise over run. Rise over run. Or you can also use the slope formula. So your slope here is also 5 over 2. Compare the first original function أو the graph was had a slope 2 over 5 2 over 5 الميل الأول الانverse 5 over 2. As you see, they are exactly reciprocals. If you multiply them, multiply the values of the slopes, you will have 1. 2 over 5 times 5 over 2 is 1. They are reciprocals or inverse multiplication factor. Yes. This is called multiplicative inverse. This is one of the criteria. So the product of the slopes equals to 1, or the slope of the function is the inverse, the multiplicative inverse of the function. Perfect. This is one of the criteria. Another thing, as we have mentioned while we were graphing, اللي قلنا x-intercept becomes y-intercept, y-intercept becomes x-intercept. Now, also if you look carefully here and draw the line y equals to x, which is the identity, the parent function of all linear functions, this is the y equals to x line. And as you see here, each function is the reflection of the inverse or vice versa across the y equals to x. It's a mirror image. So the inverse is the reflection of the line across y equals to x, which is the identity. انعكاسه على هذا. And we can use these also techniques to find out the inverse of any shape across the y equals to x. Okay. Now, if you want to practice here inverses, we can pick simply 2 nice points. This is one of the points. It is 0 and -1, so it becomes -1, 0. Fast. This was 2, 0. It becomes 0, 2. So my inverse is this line. And it is obvious here that it's the reflection across y equals to x. If you are drawing accurately, you will find that they are reflection of each other across y equals to x. Perfect. Now, let's match here, practice. Let's match each function with the graph of its inverse. Now, we have 3 functions and we have 3 graphs. How can we know which function is related to the certain graph? Let's analyze each function. Function number 1, f of x equals half x plus 2. As you see, it's very obvious that this is the slope, هذا الميل وهذا y-intercept. So I'll write here, the slope is half, y-intercept is 2. The second one, slope is half, y-intercept is -2, this one. The third one, the slope is 1, and the y-intercept is 2. Now, for the inverse, as we mentioned before a minute, the slope will be the reciprocal. So here, the reciprocal will be 2 over 1, which is 2. And here will be 2, and here 1 over 1 is 1. Now, all y-intercepts turn to be our x-intercepts for the inverse. Now, the pink values will be compared with each one here in the graphs here. Let's see here which one. Now we have 2 graphs with x-intercept 2, and one of them is x-intercept -2. Which one has the x-intercept -2? Actually, this is the only one with x-intercept -2. So that means function number 2 is related to graph C because it's the only one with x-intercept -2. So C will take 2. Now the second 2, or the next 2 functions, this and that, A or B, both of them have x-intercept 2. This has x-intercept 2 and this has x-intercept 2. So the only difference now is the slope. One of them have a slope 2, the second one is 1. If you find the slope here, rise over run is 2 over 2, which is 1. So the slope here is 1. X-intercept is 2, which matches with which one? slope 2, slope 1, x-intercept 2. So this is related to number 3. So B will take number 1, definitely. You can use all the criteria and the relation between the function and its inverse to match properly. So as a summary, slopes are multiplicative inverse, or we can say reciprocals. The product is equal to 1. The second thing is that x-intercept in the function will turn to be y-intercept in the inverse. Y-intercept of the function will turn to x-intercept in the inverse. So everything will be reversed. Ordered paired will be reversed as well. كل شيء ينعكس. الx بتصير y والy بتصير x. With that, we finished part 1. Thank you.